Very good. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us for our Autonomic Nervous System Regulation course. This is our masterclass with Kimmye Bohannon. If you haven't worked with Kimmye before, she is an integrative health practitioner. She owned the Weekly Juicery for how many years? How many years, Kimmye?
12.
12 years, made over 1.5 million bottles of organic juice.
Yep.
So she knows a thing or two about how to use nutrition to balance the body, heal the body, restore. I've learned so much from Kimmye. I learn something new every time we hang out. She's become an incredible friend too. And friends are a really important part of keeping your nervous system regulated. So this feels pretty cool to be hosting it with you.
Yeah.
Kim's my gym buddy. She went to the gym this morning without me, and she took one of Sunny's classes. I don't even think I'm brave enough to take one of Sunny's classes. So we were talking about
Rough.
I see some of you like, oh, don't.
Rough. Now I know. I know the program now. Yes.
But yeah, we just released a new class to our small group schedule that Kimmy's going to tell you a little bit about too. We're really inspired by the work that she's doing inside of, she has a program called Juice School, where every month she teaches us how to make a new organic juice. She also teaches master classes just like this one inside of her Juice School. And Kimmye, just plug your ears, but like it's $35 a month. Like it's the steal of the century. And I just hope she never raises the price because I'm just can't believe I get away with that. But $35 a month, and I just get to like learn from her all the time. So it's pretty awesome. And then having her obviously with us at Soul, providing so much care to so many of our clients. Also a private health coach. And I feel really fortunate to have been able to experience a lot of Kimmy's private coaching and learn some of the things she's going to share with you today. So without further ado, Kimmye, I am going to turn the time over to you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And this is one of those things where you might have questions. And if you do, I think Stephanie is going to collect a list of them in the chat. And that way at the end, we can go through and I will answer all of them for you. So sometimes you have a question like in the middle of something, and then by the end, you've forgotten it. So just write it into the chat. And at the end, we will, address all of them. So, okay. So yes, this subject is something that is near and dear to my heart. And it will be to yours also, because it's maybe one of the most important ninja skills that you will ever learn how to do. And it quite honestly could save your life. And that's like a big statement. You guys are probably saying to be like, really, lady? Like, is that for real that this could really save your life? And the answer to that is yes. It could save your life. And I hope I can prove that to you inside this masterclass. As Stephanie said, for those of you who don't know me, I've been at this work for 12 years. And I hope that I can inspire you to start doing this work too. And it's this idea of chasing good health, because if we're not doing that, then by definition, we're doing the opposite, which is waiting on disease. And our food system does not reward us for making good choices that are healthy and uplifting and support our highest wellness. And that feeds us into a very sick food system, a very sick healthcare system, which is designed in a disease model. If we cut our arm and need stitches, the acute based miracles they can perform with stitches and an antibiotic is unbelievable. But if you're trying to stay well in a sick based system, it's not going to work very well. We are getting sicker as a country much earlier. Chronic diseases we used to see in the people getting in their late 50s and 60s, we're now seeing in adolescents. And we're getting those people on drugs to mask that chronic disease, like a statin for cholesterol, an ACE inhibitor or a beta blocker for high blood pressure. Those medications are not curing the illness or disease. It's just putting a Band-Aid on top. And so this healthcare system we find ourselves in, it's the fastest growing industry in this whole country, faster than tech, AI, all of it. And it's fastest growing because we are getting sicker younger. We're getting dependent on this system even younger. And so one of the things that I hope to do in this last, 30 years, I'll say the next 30 years, is to teach as many people as I can that you have to take charge of your own biology. And your body is a perfectly highly tuned healing machine. It can heal itself of anything when given the right conditions to do so. And the last part of this sermon is that one of the conditions to do so is learning the ninja skill of regulating your nervous system. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully that all works. And we're going to get going here with my slides. Don't you guys love how many tabs I have open? That should tell you everything you need to know about me. I just know the right one already. Okay, here we go. So tonight we're going to learn about, and we're going to talk about, have a conversation about the autonomic nervous system. And a good two things that you can think about relative to the system in your own life is surviving versus thriving, because those are kind of the distinct adjectives we're going to apply to these two different modes of our nervous system. So tonight we're going to learn about what it is. I'm going to teach you a little bit about how it works. Then I hope I can prove to you how learning this, I'll call it a ninja skill of regulating your nervous system, because you have all the power to do so, is really helping you chase good health and live into that mission, or it's helping you just wait on disease, really send disease and illness a handwritten invitation with a bow. And then I'm going to teach you some habits that you can practice. They're free. It's easy to do, that you can practice every day to start practicing the skill of regulating our nervous system. And this is not something, just as a kind of preface to this work, this is something that I try and work on every day. And I lived in a dysregulated nervous system from ages 42 to 50. I lived there. So you're going to be hearing from someone who actually lived in a very dysregulated nervous system state for almost a decade. And I can tell you that some of these habits have changed my life and probably saved my life. And I hope that you can start taking them on too. It's like anything, it takes practice, but it's not something that you do. Kind of like, I share the same sentiment when it comes to detoxification. I don't want people to think about, oh, I'm doing a detox. Well, detoxification is a long game to play. Long. We play it forever. We just get really good at it. The same is true with this ninja skill. It's not something we do just occasionally. We practice it all the time so that it's such a honed skill in our toolkit that we can whip it out and practice it at any point. And so I want you to be thinking about this as, wow, I'm going to learn something that I can do forever. It's going to support me, my highest wellness, my family. You'll be a better support to your family, to your loved ones, to your friends. You'll just be an overall better person. So that's what we're going to learn. So I start every masterclass, those of you who have I'm going to minimize it, who have listened to me drone on or give a sermon, if you will, about one of these health issues and kind of masterclass before, you know that I start just about everyone with this quote. Nearly every health problem we face can be explained by how well the cells create and use energy. Dr. Casey Means said this, and she wrote a book called Good Energy. And the premise of the book, which is true, and I've really seen this in my own biology, is that whatever disease, symptom, illness you're facing, it can be traced back to its very root cause of how well your cells, each of them 40 trillion, 240 types, create and use energy, which seems really simple. So we solve that, and down the line, the disease, illness, etc., can be remedied. And so this is a really important thing to remember. How your cells create and use energy really determines your health fate and how vibrantly you're going to live into every decade. And so there are three killers of good energy, three things that help or that prohibit our cells from doing that, creating, using good energy. One of those, chronic inflammation, because our cells and our body are afraid of something. It's like a whole bunch of alarm bells going off at once. The second, mitochondrial dysfunction. In each of those 40 trillion cells, there's a little energy factory. And that energy factory are the mitochondria. And they pull up the glucose out of your blood when you eat food, and they turn it into energy that your body uses. And that is the creation and use of energy. And so if the mitochondria are impaired, then guess what? Your cells can't produce and use energy. And the third is oxidative stress. There is some damaging molecule toxin in the body that's causing kind of a wear down. And so those three things are killers of good energy. And that's important to know, because that's how I'm going to prove to you that learning the skill of regulating your nervous system can save your life. Okay, I want you to become a good student in your own biology. If you are not good in biology in school, that does not matter, because you are already an expert in your own biology. And so we're just going to hone that skill a little bit. And I would offer this to you, that nobody is going to be a better expert in your own biology than you, and nobody can do it better than you. You are your own best health expert. I can be your guide, and I love that job, but I want you to become the expert, because when you do that, then you don't fall for anything, and you know what works, and you know how important these skills are to practice, and you do them, and it's part of your life. And then you're going to live vibrantly for a really long time. So definition first, back to school. And it is, this is the autonomic nervous system is a part of your central nervous system, and it regulates involuntary processes like your heart rate, your blood pressure, respiration, digestion, sexual arousal. It does those things that we don't have to tell our body to do. For example, you don't wake up in the morning and say, okay, heart, it's time to start beating. It's doing that all along. It's controlled by your autonomic nervous system. There are actually three parts of it: the sympathetic or mode, if you will. If you want to think about modes on a dial, that's really helpful. The sympathetic, parasympathetic, and enteric. And we're going to focus on the sympathetic and the parasympathetic today, because those two parts are where we find ourselves most often. I always do like including a place where you can learn more. And so that link is there for you. I'm pretty sure you guys will get a copy of this slide deck after this is done. You're welcome to it, and you can click there and learn more, because that's important too. Okay, so we talked about three parts, but we're going to be focusing on two parts, sympathetic and parasympathetic. And I want you to remember during this talk, this is an easy way for you to remember it. Sympathetic, survive. SS. Sympathetic, you're surviving. Okay. Parasympathetic, you are thriving. Parasympathetic, thrive. Sympathetic, survive. So try and keep those two parts, kind of commit those to memory, if you will. Sympathetic, survive. Parasympathetic, thrive. And when these two modes are disordered, or any disorder of imbalance, disorder, impedance, blockage, etc., of the autonomic nervous system, it could affect any part of the body, because this is like the control center. So really important part of our biology. So remember, the sympathetic side of our nervous system, we're surviving. We could be surviving moving out of the way of a car that swerves toward us when we're on a sidewalk. Body does that in a millisecond. It is a built-in survival mechanism. It can help you when you're doing a presentation in front of 2,000 people on a stage with big bright lights. It can help you give that adrenaline that you need to rise to the occasion, to settle your nerves and get it done. It can give you the adrenaline and the energy that you need to run a marathon. It is a survival mechanism, and it's built in our body. It was designed to help us keep us alive, right? To truly get us out of a very dangerous situation. And so that's our survival place, right? The parasympathetic is the thrive place. It's the mode where our body is thriving. That is where all housekeeping measures and tasks occur. So in our body, it has some housekeeping. It's a system. It has a housekeeping that has to be done, just like we are housekeeping our homes. Our body is the same. And those housekeeping issues look like detoxification, keeping inflammation at bay, scanning for oxidative stress, virus, illness, etc., creating and using good energy, good metabolic process, managing our hormones. It's the thriving section, digestion. That's where all housekeeping is happening. So those are two very distinct sides of our nervous system. So when we're surviving, the stress signal, a distress signal, is received, and our brain activates the sympathetic nervous system. I used a acronym of SNS in this presentation, but I just am referring to the sympathetic nervous system. It signals to the adrenal glands to produce a hormone, epinephrine, which is also adrenaline, and dump that into our bloodstream. And you all, this happens in a millisecond. And it's not something that you have to tell your brain to do, because remember, this nervous system is autonomic, meaning it happens involuntarily. So when the car is swerving toward you, you're standing on the sidewalk and the car is swerving toward you, you don't have to say to your brain, signal the adrenaline, move me out of the way. No, it just happens, and it happens quicker than you can imagine. So the adrenaline, the epinephrine, comes from the sympathetic nervous system. The adrenal glands start to produce it. And what happens? A series of events get triggered in your body to help you, because everybody, you don't have to repeat it loud, but you can repeat this to yourself and commit it to memory. Your body is a very precious vessel. It's smart, intuitive, and it is always trying to save you. It has your best and highest health in mind every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Your body is in your corner. It is fighting for you, and it is got your highest interest in mind. Okay, it's there to care for you. And so when it gets a signal that there is a threat, a distress, a need to survive, then it increases your heart rate, your pulse, your blood pressure, your airways dilate, extra oxygen goes to the brain, your liver releases glucose, sugar, to give you energy in your blood, your hypothalamus pituitary axis, HPA, comes online, and it keeps the gas pedal pressed down. And that's my analogy to tell you that it keeps cortisol coming into your bloodstream. And that's why I use this analogy of like the gas pedal. Okay. So when there's a threat perceived, right? Because we didn't have to tell our body there's a threat, it's perceiving a threat, right? This is an autonomic nervous system. We don't tell it. You don't tell your body, hey, I'm stressed. Could you? It doesn't work that way. It perceives that. It's very smart, very intuitive. And so it starts releasing these things, and the gas pedal stays depressed. And that just simply is an analogy for you to think about the adrenal glands pumping cortisol into your bloodstream. And so this is my little monster. That's you, fighting the monster that you're like actually trying to survive something. And you can think about, if you don't want to remember any of those bullet points, that's okay. You can just remember, okay, danger, sound the alarm, prepare the troops. Quite literally, your body believes that that monster is after you. And so that is a very good overview of the sympathetic nervous system. Okay, we are surviving. The parasympathetic nervous system, remember, the thriving, the housekeeping mode, that is where digestion, normal respiratory process, normal heart rate resumes, our cortisol levels fall, our brain activates involuntarily the parasympathetic nervous system when it detects that there is balance and harmony and the threat is gone. Okay? This system is the brake. So remember the sympathetic nervous system, the gas. The parasympathetic nervous system is the brake. And this is the, if you don't want to remember any of that, you can remember this is your body sounding the all clear. Rest, repair, restore, peace, harmony, housekeeping, go back to digesting food, go back to normal blood sugar levels, go back to detoxification, mitochondria start working again, everything is neutralized. Okay, so these two states of the autonomic nervous system are both very important because it's impossible that you don't have any perceived threat throughout every day. I mean, I'm not suggesting to you, I hope that many of you are not being chased down by monsters or bad guys or burglars or that cars are swerving to you on the sidewalk. But I bet my last bottom dollar that you experience stress throughout the day. And often it's a lot of stress. And so these two systems are needed because the sympathetic nervous system, it gets this bad rap, right? The gas, but it's needed. It helps your body accomplish great feats with leaps and bounds, right? But the parasympathetic nervous system is also needed because that threat needs to be neutralized, okay? So gas, brake. And I saw this diagram, this little image, and I was like, wow, like I'm gonna buy this because how clever that it actually works out that way. And this also might be something for you to remember. And it is that the sympathetic nervous system, you can think about, I've got a little panic, I've got a lot to do, I've got a big to-do list, I've got running, gunning. The parasympathetic nervous system, I'm calm, I'm at peace, everything's chill, nothing to see here, everything's good. And, ideally we move, as I just described, into our sympathetic nervous system where we want to perform, we want to escape, we want to make it through our day. And then we shift back to let our parasympathetic, the brake, take over to allow us back to a harmonious position where there's no impedance, no blockage, and we are back to housekeeping. The reality is, and the real problem is with all of us, myself included. Remember, if you're listening, I lived in this stuck sympathetic nervous system for 10 years. We get stuck there. And what happens when we get stuck there is this chronic low level of stress, meaning instead of just, we need to move out of the way of the car, we've got a stressful presentation. Instead, there's this low level stress indicator in the body that is chronic. It's there all the time. It's there in the morning, it's there in the noon, it's there in the evenings, in the afternoon, it's there when we go to sleep, we wake up in the night, it's always there. It's this low level of stress that keeps running in the background. And that keeps our hypothalamus pituitary axis here in our brains activated. And inside the body, that manifests like a motor that's idling too high for too long. So I envision this like, if we want to go back to my brake gas pedal analogy, that you're sitting in your car and you've got the brake on and you've got your gas pedal pushed to the ground and it's just going. So if you did that for a long time, you can imagine what would happen to your car motor as well as the other interworking parts of your car. And after a while, this effect of this chronic low-level stress that keeps your HPA, hypothalamus pituitary axis, that's a control center. That's the control place of your autonomic, meaning involuntary actions. It stays activated too high, too long, and has effect on the body that has so many downline countermeasures. And the reason for that is, remember, our body is always trying to keep you safe. It loves you more than anybody else, more than anything else. It is always protecting you and trying to keep you safe. And therefore, when it detects this low level chronic stress, that keeps the motor idling too long, the cortisol pumping through your blood, it enacts, your body says, I've got to protect her here. I've got to turn on and activate a series of countermeasures to restore balance. Okay. And again, Harvard did a really good article on this. The link is below, and I encourage you to do that. This is a subject that you can kind of go a long way in, and I'm trying to do this for you in 30 minutes or so that you guys don't get bored and maybe you come back to another masterclass. But really, like, I want you to become an expert in your own biology, and the way you do that is by reading more. And so these are really good articles that you can check out. Okay, and so now you may be saying, this reminds me of my dog B. I have a new dog. She's a puppy, and she's a German Shepherd, part German Shepherd. And so when I'm telling her something and she doesn't really understand it, she does this thing with her head, and it's adorable. So saw this image. I'm like, wow, that's so cute. And you're probably saying, wow, wait, oh, Kimmye, sorry, like that's not me. I mean, I'm not stuck in the sympathetic nervous system dominance. I mean, that's really great and all. Maybe everyone else is, but certainly not me. I don't have a monster chasing me. I'm not in danger. I don't really have any stress. Like, I'm doing fine. You know, I don't have that. And I'm here to tell you, yes, you do. And yes, you probably are. And it's kind of the bad news. Your body responds to both real and perceived threats the same way. And so I'm going to say that again so that it can really sink in for you. So like, your body, who's protecting you, loves you more than anything in the world, responds to real and perceived threats in the exact same way. So it's an autonomic nervous system. And you don't tell it what to do. It perceives a threat, and that perception can't tell if it's really a car, you know, that is you've got to move out of the way, it's trying to protect you, or if you're just stressed because you've got a lot of stuff going on. It can't really tell the difference. All it can do is perceive that there's not harmony and that there's a level of threat. And that level of threat looks like running, gunning, grocery, work, life, deadline, schedule, dinner, bedtime, relationships, modern lifestyles, you know, any threat to peace and harmony. And I use the example of myself because potentially you guys could relate to me, because I lived and I survived in extreme sympathetic nervous system dominance for at least 8 years of my life, maybe a little longer. I had 3 children under 5. Who at that time were, you know, I have 3 children. They're 5 years apart in age. I ran the weekly juicery. We made over 1 million bottles of juice. We made every juice that was made at the weekly juicery until 2019. That means many times late at night, 2 in the morning, I was an hour away at our production kitchen in Louisville, Kentucky, downtown, because that's where it was. And I was putting lids on bottles, packing up boxes to try and meet a 2 a.m. UPS world flight deadline, because we ship juice all over. And then I would drive home at some ungodly hour, sleep for a couple hours, and get up and see my kids and get everybody to school and pack everybody's lunch and do all the other things. And then sometimes I would have to go right back and do it again. And so trust me when I say I lived there. Then I would get up on the weekends at 5 a.m., go set up all the farmers markets. We ran 5 farmers markets in 5 cities. It was nuts. And I don't even really know how I did it, but I can tell you my health took a huge toll. And this is what I do for a living. And I still, like, I had so much adrenaline because, listen, sounds like the weekly juicery was a bad thing. I loved it. I freaking loved it. And I love it still today. And I wouldn't change a thing. But it left me in a place where my nervous system was really dysregulated. And when the conditions around us, our daily life, in another way said, if your to-do list looks like this Post-it note thing over here, then your body perceives the demands of the conditions around you to be way outside of your ability to do them. So when the demands on the conditions around us are greater than our perceived ability, our body loves us. It's trying to take care of us. It's trying to say, can Kimmye really do all of this? Can she really do all of this family stuff, drive the hour and a half to Louisville, stay all day? Can she make the UPS flight deadline with 400 boxes to pack in a freezing cold walk-in and run the kitchen and everything else? Oh, and don't forget, sell some juice on Instagram and come back and do it all over again. Can she do all of that? I don't know. And so the body says, okay, oh, wow, she's got a lot going on. I need to move into an acute stress response. And you've probably heard of these before. Fight, flight, freeze, and fawn are the lesser known. And there is more here from an article at Simple Psychology, which I think is really good explanation of those beyond what I'm able to share with you here. So fight, meaning your body's like ready for action. Maybe you're just glaring at people, your stomach's in knots, you're gritting your teeth, you've got like this anger, like even sitting in traffic, if you find yourself like, oh, like being so annoyed. If you get so annoyed by someone in traffic, then you got to say to yourself, wow, like I'm really keyed up. Like you're annoyed at traffic. And so that's a cue that, wow, like I'm in an acute stress response here. I'm in fight. I'm in the fight mode. I've got too much cortisol running through my blood. The second one is flight. This one is sneaky, it can look like excessive exercising. I see a lot of clients in my private coaching practice that are excessively doing something to try and regulate this stress response, trying to regulate our nervous system in some way. We can somewhat feel it, but we do this by excessively exercising, excessive shopping, checking boxes, fidgeting. You're constantly moving. There's not any sense of peace. So that's kind of what flight looks like as a manifestation of this constant low level stress. It can also look like freeze. If you can't do fight and you can't do flight, you've gotten so burned down that you move into freeze. And then you have, and I had this a lot. It's like a sense of dread. I always had a sense of dread, like, oh my God, the presses are going to break today. It was just a sense of dread all the time. And my heart would be racing. And I think, oh my God, I have to call these customers if I can't get the juice out. I mean, it was a lot of that. And then another one that I think is really sneaky that I see in a lot of women, not as many men, but a lot of women, is they fail at fighting, they fail at flighting, and they move to a place of over-helpfulness, keeping peace at all cost. This is called fawning. So an example of this, I've also done some fawning in my life. If you're in a room of people, let's say, you might be worried about what someone is thinking. So like, oh my gosh, Susie Q, I sent her a text message last week. I hope Susie Q's not mad at me. I certainly didn't mean that, when there's absolutely nothing of that going on in the conversation. Or you've got 3 people in your household and you're constantly like trying to make sure everybody is fine. Oh, I've got to keep the peace at all costs. Or, maybe you have an aunt who's really grouchy at everyone and you're constantly trying to fawn around to kind of keep everybody else safe. And so it's just, you get the idea of fawning. And I would say a lot of my private health coaching clients are really great fawners. And fawners, you would think if you're an integrative health practitioner or health coach, you could look at someone and see if they are in an acute stress response. And that's not true. Fight or flight, very easy, because they're constantly moving, the fidgeting, they're over exercising, they're shopping, blah, blah, blah. You can just tell when you talk to someone who's like that. The fight or flight, somebody's always angry. They've just got this like this sort of axe to grind with the world. Those two are very easy. It's very impossible to see if someone's freezing, because that's such an internally controlled process. Like they just feel it inside of them, but they can't express it anywhere else. It's kind of like the last stage. And then fawning. I mean, those are the most sneaky. But I've been able to determine when people are fawning around. And when I ask them the questions, they admit it. And then I'm like, got them. You really have to dig a little deeper to see that. And so that's what the result of that sympathetic nervous system, that survive mode, cortisol from the adrenal glands along with adrenaline pouring into our bloodstream. The gas pedal stays down, like the engine is revving, but you got the brake on. And it's just burning down the system. Just think about that, burning up the motor in your car. That's what's happening in your body. And your body says, I'm going to move into one of these acute stress responses to survive. Okay. So there's a big difference between engaging your body's stress response system once to handle a stressful event as needed. So once my daughter Annie was running across the sidewalk in our front yard, our neighbor's sidewalk. I had been home from the hospital for 30 minutes after having a C-section with my third child, Denny. Ellen was the middle child, no telling where she was. So Annie was 5. I'm holding Denny, newborn baby, been home an hour, and Annie trips and falls and cuts her head open here to here, right at her hairline on my neighbor's stone porch. And by the time she gets to my house, her face is covered in blood. She's 5 years old. And I've got this newborn. Okay. My body had to turn on a stress response to handle that, to get her to the ER, to take my newborn baby to a nasty ER, breastfeed him while I'm trying to hold my daughter down to get this. I had to have a stress response system turned on once. But there's a big difference in something like that, which we're all going to have in our life, right? And staying there and living there long term. Okay. Staying there and living there long term is something totally different. Okay. Totally different. And I'm not going to play this for you because I don't want to keep you longer than necessary. And I have another clip for you, but this is Lucy and Ethel, and they're wrapping chocolates. And they work on the chocolate line. And so when you get this copy of this presentation, watch it. And basically, they get to a point where their job is on the factory is to wrap a chocolate, and then assembly line is moving. Well, at some point, the chocolates start moving so fast that they're having to eat them, move them, shove them down. They're just overwhelmed. And that's a good picture of what our lives can look like sometimes, right? I mean, listen, you all on this call are all busy people, and I'm really honored, and I thank you for spending an hour with me tonight to learn something about yourself. That says a lot about you, that you want to learn how to be better and be a better human for yourself, for your children, for your families, for living a long time. And so you're busy. You've got a lot to do tonight. I guarantee when we get off this call, you have to clean the kitchen, you have to make the dinner, you have to do a lot of things. And so, we're all going to have that, right? It's how we can begin to adapt to it that makes all the difference in the world. Okay, so remember, the body loves you, always seeking balance and harmony. And when a detection of imbalance it results in a countermeasure. So when the body, very intuitive, it says there is a threat to the system, cortisol is coming through, released with adrenaline from the adrenal glands. Then the body says, wow, Kimmy's got stress, and it's on all the time. Remember, because the body's perceiving this high level stress life we live, this fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and it keeps the cortisol coming through the bloodstream. And it does that to protect you because it wants you to have enough energy to do it. But what happens as a result of that is a series of countermeasures that it is trying to employ for your safety, but it's actually causing havoc in the system. And so it looks like things like this. So when we got that gas pedal revving, remember, go back to the engine example, cortisol's coming through. We're in this very stressful life. Our nervous system is dysregulated. We're in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. The engine's revving, but we've got the brake on and it's just going, forever. The liver says, holy moly, there's a lot of cortisol in the blood. So I need to step up and do my part. So I'm going to release glucose from my storage because that's going to give my girl Kimmye more fuel needs. It's going to increase the fuel storage. And then my pancreas says, holy shit, wow, there's a lot of glucose in the blood. I have to protect Kimmye here. I am going to do my part and I'm going to release insulin. to help with that extra glucose, which is helping from that cortisol that my adrenal glands are continuing to push in because it's perceiving this high level of stress. So then the liver says, oh, I'm going to produce more bad cholesterol because I got to help compensate for the high glucose levels in the blood. Why are there high glucose levels in the blood? Because the liver is putting more in to increase my energy level. My pancreas is putting more insulin in to help counteract the glucose. And my cells, remember, 40 trillion of them have an energy factory inside each one to create and use good energy. And how they do that? They have a little door on your cell. All your cells have a little door. And this is my example for you to understand. So a little door, and they open the door and they grab the glucose out of your blood and they grab the insulin out of your blood and they convert it into, they use a process called ATP, and there, behold, there's the energy system for your whole body. Okay, that's a very important process. Remember, it quite literally can save your life. So when the glucose and the insulin level become too high for too long, because remember, you got this cortisol, it's the gas pedals pushed to the ground, perceived level of stress, then the liver's putting out glucose, the pancreas putting out insulin, the cells and the mitochondria eventually say, we're out. Close the door, lock it down. We can't take up any more insulin and we can't take up any more glucose. We're done. And imagine, you know, those movies where the hero or the heroine, they're running to like jump and slide under the big door that's closing. And just imagine that's what's happening to your cells. Okay. So then your liver produces more bad cholesterol because then it's trying to help with the high glucose in your blood because the cells aren't taking it up. Next thing you know, you're on a statin drug, right? Because you got high cholesterol. You got too much glucose and insulin in your blood. And guess what you are now? You have what's called insulin, resistance. Your body doesn't respond to insulin anymore. There's too much in the blood. It's lost the sensitivity to use that hormone. Your pancreas is just making it, and your blood sugar is just not changing. So then you end up with really high hemoglobin A1C. You get this metabolic panel that's for shit. You're like, wow, man, I'm gonna have to do something here. And then you get on a cholesterol drug for a statin. And then your high cortisol increases your blood pressure. And then you have to get on a beta blocker or an ACE inhibitor. And then you get a sex hormone panel done and you've got this high estrogen, but you don't have any progesterone. Well, that's because your body was pulling all the progesterone because it's used to make the cortisol. And remember, cortisol is just coming in because you got the gas pedal, your body's trying to help you, give you more energy. So it's making more cortisol. Well, it's stealing all your progesterone. It's called the great progesterone steal. And we learned about that in integrative labs. Like all the progesterone is stolen to make this high cortisol, right? And so your thyroid stimulating hormone, your thyroid stops really working well. It slows the production because there's all these alarm bells going off in the body. And then your body is not converting, T4 to T3. And so then you got this overactive thyroid, this underactive thyroid. You see that in a lot of women. And then the cortisol hormone is typically used to boost your immune system, right? Short term, that's what it's used for. If your body detects a virus illness, it'll shoot in a little cortisol, and that helps your immune system get that energy to fight. But when you have high levels of cortisol too long, your immune system, it has the adverse impact. And your immune system is like, oh, good God, there is a lot of stuff going on here. I've got to create some inflammation. There is too much glucose. There is too much there's too much. There's no thyroid. Something is going on here. And then you've got high cortisol. Oh, sorry. Shoot. I'm going the wrong way. Sorry, guys. You've got high cortisol, and all of these things are happening, and that is to your body's true demise. Let me go back to my slides here, folks, although it's not really working. There we go. Okay. So you've got all of these things happening, right? All of it. And the prolonged high cortisol is also associated with really high levels of oxidative stress because your body has created all this inflammation and your immune system is trying to fight all of these things. And so guess what it's not fighting? It's not fighting those free radicals, and it's not scavenging the free radicals. So here you go. You got this whole like compendium here of countermeasures, because each one of these was designed by your body to try and help you, right? It's a countermeasure. It's trying to protect you and keep you safe because it's perceiving the stress, right? And so all that's happening. So this is a really good, I love space movies, Apollo 13. This is from the Apollo 13 clip when they were doing a routine check and they fired some of the combustion things, and then all these things start going wrong. And so this is a good example.
There's another map. Houston.
I'm checking the quad.
Christ, there's no refresh valve.
Maybe it's a quad.
We've got a computer
I'm
restart.
gonna reconfigure the RCS.
We've got a
When
pin
these things
slide.
fire, it doesn't make any
We've
sense.
got multiple caution and warning, Houston. We've got a restart.
All right, I'm going to STS.
Like the heart rates are skyrocketing. Econ, what's your data telling you?
O2 tank 2 not reading at all. Tank 1 is at 725 psi and falling. Fuel cells 1 and 3 are oh boy, what's going on here? Flight, let me get back to you. Flight GNC. Flight, they're all over the place. They keep going close to gimbal lock. I keep losing radio signal.
Okay, so you can see that all those alarm lights, that's sort of a good representation from an image perspective of what's happening in your body when we've got that gas pedal that's stuck, right? We're stuck in this sympathetic dominance, the sympathetic side of our nervous system, this survive mode, because our lifestyle, right, has just super stressed, and we don't know how to regulate and create a piece of calm, right? So we're always going to have stress. So remember, nearly every health problem we face determined by how well our 40 trillion cells can create and use energy. And I just explained to you that this issue of not being able to regulate your nervous system and create some calm, some peace, some harmony, to move your body on instant from the sympathetic dominance to the parasympathetic, creates chronic inflammation. It creates mitochondrial dysfunction, and it creates oxidative stress. It checks all of those boxes. And so if you think about that, the killers of good energy are the cause of almost all chronic diseases, then this strategy, this ninja skill that I'm getting ready to teach you, quite literally save your life. So what we're going to learn in the next few minutes is how to master the switch. This is how we're going to learn and practice to make this switch every day, to remind your body that it is really in the parasympathetic rest, digest, harmonious state. Even though we have a stressful life, I have a stressful life every day, we're going to master making that switch. So the first thing that you can do that I think is one of the most impactful things, you can even practice it, I can't see you because I'm looking at my slides, is 4-7-8 breath work. I teach this to all of my coaching clients, and it is quite literally, it is something that I try to do with the change of every hour on my phone. I just try and say, okay, it's the new hour of the day, and I'm going to remind myself that I'm in a great nervous system state. So how do you do it? You breathe in 4 counts through your nose, through your mouth, breathe in 4 counts. Then you're going to hold the breath for 7 counts at the top. And then you're going to exhale for 8 counts through your mouth. And so a few years ago, set an alarm on my phone until it was kind of commonplace for me. And I would do it morning, noon, and kind of mid-afternoon. And I would really work on 5 to 6 rounds of this. This is also incredibly helpful for now. I try and do it every hour because I want my body to be, I'm at my best when I am in a parasympathetic place. I make better decisions. I know my body is functioning optimally. I have more focus when I can do this work. And so 4-7-8 breath work is a almost immediate way to switch, master that switch, and move your body from a very, whoo, this has been a high stress day, to everything's calm again. So 4-7-8 breath work. The next is humming. Humming actually activates the vagus nerve and improves your vagal tone. The vagus nerve goes from your stomach to your head, and 75% of the nerve fibers of that parasympathetic nervous system, remember, calm, relax, thrive, are found within the vagus nerve, and humming is such an easy way. So if you're doing your work in the morning, you're working on something at work, just hum your favorite tune. Doesn't have to be loud. If you are trying to focus, really improve your focus, you can hum and improve your focus. When you get home from work and it is so stressful at your house because your kids are running everywhere and you've got to make dinner and la di la di la, if you can hum while you're making dinner, you will find that you are more peaceful inside. And so humming is another easy way. And I wanted these strategies to be very easy for you because I want them to be things that you can do just privately between you and your body at several points throughout the day. Okay, number 3, walking in nature. Walking is involuntary. And when I say nature, I mean outside. It's involuntary. Your body, you don't have to tell your body to walk, or most of us do not. We don't have to think about it. It's an easy way to calm your mind and recenter. Okay. And you can anchor your day. I'm not the greatest at this yet, but I am getting better. You can anchor your day with 3 short walks: morning, midday, and after dinner. So tonight, because I'm doing this class for you guys, I have not done my after dinner walk, but as soon as we're done, I'm going outside to do it. And the after dinner one is the most important because you're readying your body for bed and you're also really firing your metabolism as well. So that one is really important. And something, again, that you can easily do. This will automatically move your nervous system from super stressed, high strung, keyed up to, everything is fine. You know, I can make a better decision on this particular issue. I try when I'm walking to either make a phone call to a friend. I try not to, think about work. I just try and really have that. It's just a meditative break time for myself. And so there are a few other things that you can do that I think are really important as related to this. Making sure that you have taken a few moments to articulate what you want your life vision to be, because no one's going to do that for you. And if you know what your life vision is and you know what a vision for your life in its most ideal state is, then you can be scripting your ideal day to work toward that. And sometimes in life, I feel like we begin to experience this rat running on the wheel, feeling like days run into weeks, run into months. And I think that when I start to feel that way, I really say, okay, like what do I really want my life to be about? And am I structuring my day? And am I serving my family? Am I serving the people that I need to serve in that highest vision? And sometimes just even taking a moment to articulate that and reading my vision. I'll do that occasionally. I just read it in the mornings on, okay, this is what I want to be about. This is what I want to do. Then it helps me stay out of that like super stress mode because I'm in a cause greater than myself. Another thing for you guys to think about is, when you are, if you suspect that you are operating in this place, and if you are, you can generally feel that, especially, given the descriptions of kind of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, then the last thing your body needs is more stress. And so that includes like even your workouts, as an example, to kind of tie this back into the amazing trainers at Soul, many of whom are probably on this call. If your body is already dumping cortisol on repeat into your nervous system, then a super hard hit workout is doing more gas onto the fire, right? We need to be doing more calming activities, functional weight training, not overdoing. And so sometimes clients will come to me for one-to-one coaching, and this is the experience they describe. You know what? I do everything, Kimmye. I do everything. I work out at the gym 3 times a week. I eat healthy. I do a detox. I've done all these things. And like, I'm the person who never makes any progress. I'm the person who can't lose weight. I'm the person, I have a middle age tube. I got functional labs, and all I know is that my thyroid's not working anymore. Or someone over 50 will come to me and they've gotten a really bad lipid panel and a really bad metabolic panel. And all of that can be tied back to its very root cause. of running and gunning in this nervous system dominance. And so it's sort of like a whole life picture that you have to look at, and you have to say, wow, like it's kind of one of those counterintuitive things, but to get better and to move forward on the path, you start practicing some of these activities we talked about tonight. And slowly but surely you learn, wow, okay, I just made a big switch here. I feel so much better. One other thing that I've tried to start doing even in my day is I'll take 1 minute to just sit in silence. 1 minute, 60 seconds on your phone, 1 minute to sit in silence, especially before I'm changing activities so that I'm just not running into the next thing. And I also find that to be very helpful. So that is all of the nervous system talk tonight. And so I'm going to turn it back over to Stephanie, or Stephanie, if you want to moderate the questions, or if anybody has questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. And I hope that you guys found this helpful.
Oh, wait, I'm behind my plant now. Kimmye, that was incredible. I learned so much. Sunny joined us somewhere along the way. So we've been over here having our own discussion about everything. And I know we have some questions for you, but I'd love to hear from anyone on the call, any questions that anyone has, or anything in particular that you would want to dig into a little deeper. And you can drop it in the chat. If you don't want to unmute yourself and ask, you can absolutely just drop it in the chat. Well, for everyone on, oh, Summer?
No. So did perimenopause/menopause play a part in your 8 to 10 years of research? You were stressed?
Yes, it did. It did. But that's a really good question. First of all, I did make it through menopause. So I'm living proof that all of you can make it. Like, here I am. I'm living on the other side. I'm still alive to tell the tale. But that's a really good question that you asked, because when we are in perimenopause and menopause, like the plane has been rolling along and it's time to come to a gentle landing, to move into this really fabulous new phase of our life, right? But what happens is a little not that. It's more like the plane is rolling on. It's a little rocky. And what I will tell you is the sum of that rockiness is related to that great progesterone steal that I just described to you, the cortisol hormone. We think we've got two hormones in the body, and that's progesterone and estrogen, but that's not true. They all work together. And so because my body had so much stress, and sometimes you all, at the end of the day, I'd be like, damn, Kim, I can't believe how much shit you can do. You are like a ninja. Like, you are so freaking unbelievable. You just did all that. It's 2 a.m. You get to do it again at 6. Like, it was like I was proud of myself, right? And meanwhile, I'm just running my body down into the drain. But see, that cortisol, remember the gas pedal still pressed down? That's stealing all the progesterone from an already rocky hormone system, which leaves us with estrogen dominance, right? And that is a cause of a whole cascade of things. And listen, when we're in perimenopause, we are going to have some rocky sex hormones. So, I mean, if we can make that less rocky by staying in a calm system, all the better. So there is some relatedness. Yes.
Okay.
If you can regulate your nervous system through perimenopause and menopause, you will fare much better than me. I will tell you that. If you can.
That is the goal.
Yes.
This
all
has
of
been
these
helpful.
Yeah, all of these exercises. Now is the time to be selfish in the pursuit of managing your nervous system, not giving yourself this badge of honor, like I want to try and do these crazy things. This is not the time. It's a counterintuitive in the sense, because you have to really, my private coaching clients say, wait a minute. You don't want me to do a HIIT workout? Like, I'm going to die. I'm going to gain all this weight. Are you crazy? Whoa. And I'll say, listen, you got to trust me. We got to wind this back. I explain to my private coaching clients, imagine that you're standing there and I'm going to put a cold fire hose on your system. I'm just going to cool it all off. We are cooling off. We're cooling off. And that's when magically the weight starts coming off, and magically the energy levels come back, and magically things start working again for the body when we slow it down. Slow it down. It does work, I promise. Slow it down in order to achieve what you want to do.
Okay.
I think everyone needed to hear that. So thank you for asking. That was a great question, Summer.
It was, yes.
And in the chat, Sarah asked, I like this too. How curious, or she said, I'm curious how long it took you to get unstuck. I know it's probably different for everyone, but just curious about your experience.
Took me about 2 years. Took me about 2 years, I would say. That's true. And I'm unstuck. I mean, I can say now I'm unstuck. And but it took me a long time. And listen, I still, you know, as I said to you in the beginning, we are always empowered. We always need to be empowered to do this work every day, every minute. For instance, I can tell you right now that my nervous system is keyed up because I love talking about this stuff. And I freaking love teaching people and giving sermons about integrative health. And I love it. And so right now, my nervous system is keyed up. Okay. I know that it is because I love it. And it's a good thing. But as soon as this is over, I'm going to be sitting by myself for a few minutes. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to reset myself back down. Come on down, Kimmye. They ain't listening to you no more. They're done. They don't want to hear anymore. You've done it. It's over. Hopefully they're excited about it, but it's over. You can come on back down. And so I have to work that path. My mom died this summer. I spent a month in Louisville with her in the ICU and she died. And I mean, that whole summer, I found myself back into it. I was worried all the time. I had a pit in my stomach. I thought, oh my God, you know, like I have something wrong with me. And all it was is my nervous system was just dysregulated again. And so it can manifest in the body in crazy ways. So I had to really work on it. I'm a high strung kind of person. So I'm type A. I like to do a lot of stuff. So I really have to work on it. If that's you, I'm a good coach for you because I have to work on it all the time.
She's the best accountability buddy in the world. She'll have you Voxer her every night to let her know that you did your walk every single night.
At your peace.
And if you don't send her a message, she's gonna message you. So
Yeah, that's
trust
right.
me, you can't hide. All right. So another question in the chat, tips for 4-7-8 breathing. I never seem to get it right, worrying about if I'm going too fast or too slow, really defeating the purpose. Do you count like quietly, or could something like tapping your leg or using a metronome app be helpful? And it seems like other people in the chat can relate to that. So great question.
Okay, so I'm just going to do it right here now on the call, and everybody can do it too. And what I find is when I first start doing it, I can't tell you medically, I'm going to maybe have to dig into this. I can't tell you why this is, but when I first begin 4-7-8 breathing, I find that my lung capacity is not as great as when I'm in the later rounds of it. So I try and do it 5 times when I do it. I try and do it before I eat. I try and do it at a couple of points throughout the day, and certainly before I go to sleep at night. And most of the time I fall asleep somewhere doing it. So if you wake up in the middle of the night, it's also really good. So, okay, we're going to start right now. So I'm going to breathe in 4 counts. So I would breathe in. And now we're holding. So we'll do it one more time, and I'll do it with my fingers. So 4 in, 7 hold, 8 exhale, because I just recognize I can't talk to you and exhale. So, okay, so we're going to breathe in for 4. So that's about the speed that I try and do it. I think the slower, the better. And I think you'll find once you do this in rounds like 2 and 3, you really get into that inhaling fully, and you move from a very shallow breath that we breathe in our daily life to a very deep diaphragm, like you start breathing from way down in your gut. And that's a sign that you are relaxing and that you're able to take those big breaths. So you'll notice the more you do this, the better you get at it in that like second and third time. Does that make sense for everyone?
Mhm.
Okay.
You have Sunny over here very relaxed.
Oh,
Yes. Thank you so much, Kimmye. That was very, very helpful. There's any other questions? I don't see any in the chat. So we'll go ahead and just wrap it up for the evening. But if you do have any questions for Kimmye, you can always email her. Kimmye, do you want to share your email or the best way to contact you?
Yes, and you guys can write this down. This is a new email that I started for my coaching clients that have questions. And I'm generally keep this pretty contained to just that. So I'm generally pretty good about getting back to people. But it is KASB, so like Kimmye, Kimberly Ann Shepherd Bohannon KASB 6 1972 at gmail.com. So KASB 6 1972 at gmail.com. And you can email me a coaching question if you are interested in holistic health coaching and having a partner help you regulate your nervous system. Like I said, I am really good at that because I lived it and I did it myself. And I've also survived menopause. And I think it's helpful too if you are someone who's looking into that to be able to see, oh my gosh, she made it, you know, and she did it. So that's also helpful. But I'm happy to answer any questions. You can also direct message me on Instagram. And I am pretty good about getting back to those as well. Because often, you know, if you have a question, someone else has it too. So often if you direct message me on Instagram, I will answer the question like in a live video or in a story because someone else has. They're always good questions. So it's not work for me to answer those. They're very helpful. So send them on.
Well, we will send out this recording and also the slide deck from her presentation to everyone that registered for the call. And we'll include your contact information as well. But thank you all so much for being on.
Yes, thank you all.
It was incredible.
Take care.
Thank you so much.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.